Good morning, everyone. Today's topic is surfactant. So, first we will see about the definition. It is a surface acting material or the agent that is responsible for lowering the surface tension of fluid inside the alveoli. So, surfactant that lines the epithelium of the alveoli in lungs is known as pulmonary surfactant, and it decreases the surface tension on the alveolar membrane and prevents the collapsing tendency produced by surface tension. Source of secretion of the pulmonary surfactant. So the pulmonary surfactant is secreted by two types of cells. One is type 2 alveolar epithelial cells and the second one is Clara cells, which is type 2 alveolar epithelial cells. Surfactant secreting alveolar cells are the pneumocytes, and the Clara cells are situated in the bronchioles. It is also called bronchiolar exocrine cells. So the chemistry of surfactant, it is a lipoprotein complex which is formed by the lipids, especially the phospholipids, proteins and ions. So the phospholipids forms about 75% of the surfactant, and the major phospholipid present in the surfactant is dipalmitoyl phosphatidylcholine DPPC, and other lipid substances of the surfactant are triglycerides and the phosphatidylglycerol. And the proteins of the surfactant are called specific surfactant proteins. There are four main surfactant proteins called SPA, SPB, SPC and SPD. So the SPA and SPD are hydrophilic in nature. SPB and SPC are hydrophobic in nature. So surfactant proteins are vital components of surfactant. So this surfactant becomes inactive in the absence of the proteins. So the ions present in the surfactant are mostly calcium ions. So formation of surfactant, how it is formed. So the type 2 alveolar cells as well as the Clara cells have so many lamellar bodies which forms the source of which is the main source of surfactant. So the lamellar bodies contain surfactant phospholipids and the surfactant proteins. So these materials are synthesized in the endoplasmic reticulum and stored in the lamellar bodies. By means of some exocytosis process, these are released into the alveoli. So in the presence of surfactant protein and calcium, the phospholipids are arranged in a mesh structure called a tubular myelin. So the tubular myelin is in turn converted into a surfactant in the form of a film that spreads over the entire surface of alveoli. So most of the surfactant is absorbed into the type 2 alveolar cells, catabolized, and the products are loaded into the lamellar bodies for recycling. So there are factors which are necessary for the formation as well as spreading of surfactant. So formation of surfactant requires many substances. So the formation of tubular myelin requires DPPC, PG as well as the hydrophobic proteins SPB as well as SPC. So formation of surfactant film requires SPBC and the phosphoglycerides. So type 2 alveolar epithelial cells occupy only about 5% of the alveolar surface. However, the surfactant must spread over the entire alveolar surface. It is facilitated by PG as well as the calcium ions. So the glucocorticoids plays an important role in the formation of surfactant. And next one is functions of surfactant. So the main function of surfactant is which reduces the surface tension in the alveoli of the lungs and prevents collapsing tendency of the lungs. So the surfactant acts by the following mechanism. So first one is phospholipid molecule in the surfactant has two portions. One is hydrophilic portion and another one is hydrophobic. So the hydrophilic portion dissolves in the water and lines the alveoli, but hydrophobic portion is directed towards the alveolar air. And the surfactant is responsible for stabilization of the alveoli, which is necessary to withstand the collapsing tendency. And it also plays an important role in the inflation of the lungs even after birth. In fetus, the secretion of surfactant begins after the third month. Until birth, the lungs are solid and not expanded. Soon after birth, the first breath starts because of the stimulation of the respiratory centers by hypoxia as well as hypercapnia. This gets expanded, the lungs gets expanded. So another important function of surfactant is its role in defense with the lungs against the infection as well as inflammation. So the hydrophilic proteins like SPA and D destroy the bacteria as well as viruses, and it protects the lungs. So the effect of deficiency of surfactant. First one is respiratory distress syndrome. So the absence of surfactant in the infants causes collapse of the lungs because it's unable to expand. And the condition is called respiratory distress syndrome or hyaline membrane disease. If it occurs in adults, and that is known as adult respiratory distress syndrome. In addition, the deficiency of surfactant increases the susceptibility for bacterial as well as viral infections. So that's all about the surfactant. Thank you.